In this video, we are going to be learning about the three-dimensional shapes of molecules as predicted by valence shell electron pair repulsion theory. Valence shell electron pair repulsion theory, called VSEPR theory for short, states that the groups of electrons around the center atom arrange themselves as far apart as possible to minimize repulsions. Electron groups include both bonding pairs of electrons and lone pairs of electrons. The shape of a molecule influences its polarity and how it interacts with other molecules. Molecular polarity affects many macroscopic properties, including melting point, boiling point, viscosity, and solubility in water, which we will study later. Here, I am showing you the three-dimensional model of ammonia, NH3. Ammonia has one lone pair of electrons on the nitrogen atom. That lone pair repels the bonding pairs of electrons, pushing them downward. As a result, ammonia has a molecular geometry called trigonal pyramidal. The geometry of a molecule is determined by the number of electron groups around the central atom. Electron groups include both bonding electrons and non-bonding electrons. A single bond counts as one electron group. Although double bonds and triple bonds contain multiple pairs of electrons, each multiple bond counts as only one electron group. For example, a double bond is one electron group containing 4 electrons, and a triple bond is one electron group containing 6 electrons. Here's the Lewis dot structure for nitrate. Around the central nitrogen atom, there is one double bond and 2 single bonds, giving a total of 3 electron groups. Here is the Lewis structure for oxygen difluoride, OF2. Around the central oxygen atom, there are 2 single bonds and 2 lone pairs, giving a total of 4 electron groups. Notice that we only count the electron groups around the central atom. The lone pairs on the fluorine atoms belong to only the fluorine and are not considered when determining the molecular shape. Here is the Lewis structure for hydrocyanic acid, HCN. Around the central carbon atom, there is 1 single bond and 1 triple bond, giving us a total of 2 electron groups. When we name molecular shapes, we will assign both an electron group geometry and a molecular geometry. I will abbreviate these as EGG and MG. The electron group geometry describes the arrangement of all electron groups, treating bonding pairs and lone pairs equally. For example, in ammonia, there are 4 electron groups around the nitrogen. These 4 electron groups arrange themselves in a tetrahedral geometry. The molecular geometry, however, describes only the arrangements of the atoms. Because these lone pairs are not visible, ammonia appears to have only 3 atoms surrounding the nitrogen. The molecule is not flat because of the lone pair, so its molecular geometry is trigonal pyramidal. In this course, we will learn the molecular shapes for molecules with 2, 3, and 4 electron groups around the central atom. This table summarizes the shapes. Notice that it only applies to molecules with 3 or more atoms. If a molecule has only 2 atoms, its shape is always linear. That's why portions of this table are grayed out. For 2 electron groups, the electron group geometry is linear. Whenever there are no lone pairs on the central atom, the molecular geometry has the same name as the electron group geometry. In a linear molecule, the atoms are spread as far apart as possible, resulting in a bond angle of 180 degrees. For 3 electron groups, the electron group geometry is trigonal planar. The 3 electron groups spread out as far apart as possible, giving bond angles of approximately 120 degrees. If one of these electron groups is a lone pair, the molecular geometry becomes bent. For 4 electron groups, the electron group geometry is tetrahedral. The prefix tetra means 4. Spreading the 4 electron groups as far apart as possible produces a bond angle of 109.5 degrees. If one of these electron groups is a lone pair, then there are only 3 visible atoms. The molecule appears triangular, but it is not flat because of the lone pair. This molecular geometry is called trigonal pyramidal. If 2 of the 4 electron groups are lone pairs, the molecular geometry is bent. Let's use that table to identify the electron group geometry and molecular geometry for the molecules we analyzed earlier. For the nitrate ion, there are 3 electron groups around the nitrogen. None of those electron groups are lone pairs. Therefore, the electron group geometry is trigonal planar, and the molecular geometry is also trigonal planar. For oxygen difluoride, there are 4 electron groups around the oxygen atom. 2 of those electron groups are lone pairs. The electron group geometry is tetrahedral, while the molecular geometry is bent. For hydrocyanic acid, there are 2 electron groups around the center carbon atom. Neither electron group is a lone pair. Therefore, the electron group geometry is linear, and the molecular geometry is also linear. This slide organizes the molecular shapes in a different way. Instead of grouping them by the number of electron groups, it groups them by the number of terminal atoms. For molecules with 2 terminal atoms, the electron group geometry may be linear, trigonal planar, or tetrahedral, depending on if there is 0, 1, or 2 lone pairs on the central atom. If there are no lone pairs, the molecular geometry is also linear. If there is 1 or 2 lone pairs, the molecular geometry is bent. For molecules with 3 terminal atoms, both possible molecular geometries begin with the word trigonal. If there's no lone pairs, the molecular geometry is trigonal planar because the molecule is flat. If there are 3 terminal atoms and 1 lone pair, giving a total of 4 electron groups, the molecular geometry is trigonal pyramidal. If there are 4 terminal atoms, the molecular geometry is tetrahedral. That is the only possibility we will be studying in this course. Now let's assign electron group geometries and molecular geometries to the Lewis structures you drew in the previous video. For NClO, there are 3 electron groups around the nitrogen atom. One of these electron groups is a lone pair. The electron group geometry is trigonal planar, and the molecular geometry is bent. For the carbonate ion, the central carbon atom has 3 electron groups. There are no lone pairs around the carbon atom. Both the electron group geometry and the molecular geometry are trigonal planar. For the nitrite ion, the central nitrogen atom has 3 electron groups. One of those electron groups is a lone pair. The electron group geometry is trigonal planar. The molecular geometry is bent. For phosphoric acid, focus on the central phosphorus atom. It has 4 electron groups and no lone pairs. Therefore, both the electron group geometry and the molecular geometry are tetrahedral. For the sulfite ion, the sulfur atom has 4 electron groups. One of those electron groups is a lone pair. The electron group geometry is tetrahedral, and the molecular geometry is trigonal pyramidal. Finally, for carbon dioxide, the central carbon atom has 2 electron groups. Neither electron group is a lone pair. Therefore, both the electron group geometry and the molecular geometry are linear.